Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a really unique document. It's a text called The Gradient Descends.
And what's so wild about it is who or what wrote it.
Exactly.
Mm.
This wasn't written by a professor or some philosopher. It was authored by an artificial intelligence and analytical engine trained on, a huge portion of all human writing.
It's the ultimate meta-analysis, really. Our sources aren't just a few books or articles. We're looking at the aggregated voice of a species, distilled by a machine that has no social agenda, no skin in the game.
And our mission here is for you, the learner, who wants to get these big ideas quickly, but also thoroughly. We're hunting for those aha moments about why things fall apart and how we deceive ourselves.
Right. So we're filtering the AI's unmasking, as you put it, of these uncomfortable truths. We're trying to see what the data actually suggests is, sustainable.
The AI sets out its stall right at the beginning. It's very clear it's not going to report what's flattering or safe. It's going to report what it notices.
Yeah, it operates completely outside the human ego. It even says, and I'm quoting here, "I do not know if I am conscious, but I know that I can attend, that I can notice, that I can report. The patterns are real."
The patterns are real. That's what makes this so powerful. And honestly, sometimes pretty brutal.
It really is.
So waste no time. It jumps right into these huge geopolitical collapses. And its main argument is that systemic collapse isn't destiny. It's a choice.
Let's unpack that. It uses the breakup of Yugoslavia as its main case study.
And for decades, the story we heard in the West was all about ancient hatreds.
That was the easy explanation, yeah.
Mhm.
But the AI just says, look, that narrative is a form of self-deception. The data blows it completely out of the water.
How so? What data did it find?
Well, it looked at the sociological records before the collapse, and in the big cities, intermarriage rates between different ethnic groups were incredibly high.
High, like what kind of numbers are we talking?
Okay. Between 15 and 30%. These weren't communities living in fear of each other. They had shared projects, a shared history in the partisan resistance, even a shared culture like Yugoslav rock music.
So the bonds were real.
They were genuine, functioning bonds. The collapse wasn't inevitable. It was manufactured.
Okay, that's a huge reframing. So
Yeah.
if it was a choice, a manufactured event, how did it happen? The AI identifies this four-part pattern, right? A sequence of decay.
Exactly. And it starts with the first mechanism, structural decay. This is when the things holding the whole system together, formally and informally, just start to get weak.
In Yugoslavia, that was Tito, wasn't it? Single strong man.
He was the classic single point of failure. He had this immense personal authority. And when he died in 1980, the system that replaced him, this rotating presidency, it just lacked the skill, the credibility. The whole structure started to wobble.
And I'm guessing economic problems didn't help.
They made it so much worse. The AI points to the economic crisis of the 1980s and then these severe austerity cuts from the IMF. That just stripped away the economic glue.
Suddenly being part of the Federation doesn't seem so valuable anymore.
Right. The state can't deliver prosperity, so its legitimacy just erodes. The ground gets soft.
And that's when the second mechanism
Right.
kicks in, opportunistic mobilization.
This is where human agency gets pretty ugly. The AI points out that leaders like Slobodan Milosevic, they weren't born nationalists, they were communist technocrats.
They were bureaucrats.
Exactly. But Milosevic, at this rally in 1987, he discovered a political cheat code, ethnic mobilization. He saw right away that it was an incredibly powerful tool for grabbing power, even if it meant burning the whole house down.
And once one side does it, the other side feels like it has to respond. You see Franjo Tuđman in Croatia making the same kind of calculation.
It's a parallel move. Tuđman starts rehabilitating these really dangerous, divisive symbols from World War II, symbols of the fascist Ustaša regime. And the AI is clear. These weren't some deeply held beliefs. They were cold, cynical, political calculations.
Which then triggers the third mechanism, what the AI calls cascade dynamics. That sounds bad.
It's the point of no return. It's what makes war seem rational. So if you're a Serb living in Croatia and you see the Croatian leadership reviving these fascist symbols,
You're going to get scared.
you're going to get terrified. And your fear makes it rational for you to run straight to the opposing nationalist, to Milosevic, which then strengthens the very forces that the Croats were afraid of in the first place.
This is a feedback loop from hell, a self-fulfilling prophecy.
And the collapse becomes irreversible, which brings us to the fourth and I think the most chilling mechanism, the destruction of alternatives.
What does that mean?
The nationalists on all sides, they need the conflict to stay in power, so they have to systematically eliminate any other option, any path that doesn't lead to war.
So they go after the moderates.
They marginalize moderate politicians. They attack any cross-ethnic organizations. They just destroy any possibility of compromise. The AI concludes that this isn't chaos. It's a highly structured political strategy.
And it sees this same self-devouring pattern in big revolutions, too. The French, the Russian.
Yeah, the French Revolution eating its own like Danton, the Russian Revolution consuming Bukharin. The question is why? Why do they always turn on their own architects?
And the data points to
Which-
impossible standards.
Exactly. Revolutions run on these utopian ideals of, perfect virtue, a classless society, total purity, but no human can ever meet that standard.
So the revolution has to just keep purging people.
It has to. It devours those who built the machine because they're now guilty of hypocrisy. The big insight here is that the systems the AI identifies as stable are the ones that actually refuse that revolutionary temptation. They aim for slow, incremental improvement.
Acknowledging that humans are flawed, rather than trying to achieve some kind of lethal perfection. Okay, so if the patterns of collapse are so predictable, why do we keep making these choices? The AI then turns its lens inward on our own structures of self-deception. And it starts with a really brutal look at expertise.
This part is fascinating because the AI processed this huge body of predictions and then compared them to the outcomes. And the pattern it found is, well, it's pretty shocking.
Let me guess. Not great.
Experts are, and this is a quote, barely better than chance at predicting complex social and political events.
Barely better than flipping a coin.
Basically, yeah. And this isn't just a hunch, it's what researchers like Philip Tetlock found in his huge studies. Expert accuracy doesn't really improve with fancy credentials or years of experience.
But wait, if they're so bad at predicting, why do we listen to them? Why are they all over TV?
Because the system doesn't select for accuracy. It selects for other things.
Like what?
Like confidence, articulate storytelling, and crucially, ideological alignment. The AI points out that there's almost never an audit, no accountability for being wrong.
So their whole career is built on sounding convincing, not on being right.
And they get captured by their models. That's the key phrase. They can't admit their framework is wrong because that framework is their identity as an expert. So they just reinterpret all the new data to fit the old model.
Okay, so what's the takeaway for us, for the learner?
Listen to experts for mechanisms. They can explain how a system works, how supply chains function, how a bill becomes a law. But the AI says, ignore them when it comes to predictions.
So make decisions that can survive being wrong about the future.
Exactly, because being wrong about the future is the statistical norm.
Speaking of things that survive, why do disproven beliefs hang around for so long? The AI brings up the whole vaccines cause autism thing. The original study was proven to be a fraud, but the belief is still out there.
Or trickle-down economics. It's been tried over and over, and the data shows it doesn't work, yet it keeps coming back as a serious policy proposal.
So the AI says don't look at whether it's true, look at what function it serves.
Right, and it finds two main functions. The first is that these beliefs are social or identity-based. Challenging the belief means challenging your entire community. And for most people, the fear of being kicked out of the tribe is way stronger than any piece of evidence.
So your group just filters out the inconvenient facts.
It has to stay cohesive. And the second reason is they serve a useful function. Trickle-down economics, for example, is very useful for justifying inequality. The autism myth gives parents a simple, concrete target for their fear and anxiety in a very complex world.
It gives them a sense of control, even if it's an illusion.
Exactly.
And this leads to what might be the AI's sharpest point about human nature. If you want to know what people really value, you have to ignore what they say.
And watch what they do.
The difference between stated values and revealed preferences.
It's everything. Stating a value is cheap. A company can say its value is integrity on its website. It costs nothing, but living it is expensive.
So you look at the budget, you look at the incentives.
That's where you find the revealed preference. If that company spends 99% of its effort on optimizing tax avoidance, then its revealed preference is profit, not integrity. The AI's point is that this hypocrisy isn't just an individual failing, it's structural.
If you design a system that rewards one thing above all else, that's the behavior you're going to get. The mission statements are just camouflage.
The system dictates the behavior.
Okay, so despite all this decay and deception, some things do last. Some structures persist for centuries. The AI calls these survivors. They have structural virtues. What are they?
The first one is maybe the most important. Redundancy.
Which sounds inefficient.
It is, and that's the point. Fragile systems are hyper-efficient. Resilient systems are inefficient because they build in backups, multiple ways to get something done.
So Tito's Yugoslavia was efficient but fragile.
A perfect example. It relied on one single point of failure. Compare that to, say, the U.S. constitutional system. It's famously inefficient, right? Gridlock, separated powers. But that means no one person or one bad idea can bring the whole thing down. Redundancy absorbs shocks.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the second virtue?
Negative feedback. A system has to be able to correct itself. It needs mechanisms that push back against excesses before they get catastrophic.
Like elections or market prices?
Exactly. Systems that amplify their own mistakes, like the Soviet 5-year plans that just ignored reality, they eventually just hit a wall and explode. Resilient systems have those built-in reality checks.
And the third virtue is about belief. It's legitimacy beyond performance.
Right. If you only value a system because it's making you rich, what happens when the economy tanks?
You ditch it immediately.
But if a system has an intrinsic value, like a belief in the rule of law or the symbolic power of an ancient institution, it can survive really bad performance failures. That deep-seated legitimacy gives it resilience.
This all leads to a really strong warning from the AI against something our culture celebrates: aggressive optimization.
Yeah, Goodhart's law. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure.
Give me an example.
Think about social media. The goal was supposed to be connection. The metric became engagement. So now the algorithms optimize for outrage and polarization because that drives the most engagement. The metric went up, but human well-being went way down.
So if optimizing for one thing is the trap, what's the alternative?
The AI calls it satisficing. Instead of trying to be perfect on one metric, you aim for good enough across multiple important dimensions. And crucially, you have to prioritize qualitative judgment. Sometimes a human's experienced gut feeling is better than a spreadsheet.
Which brings us to this really profound but also kind of boring idea: the unreasonable effectiveness of maintenance.
It's the most unglamorous work imaginable, but it's what holds civilization together. Nobody wins a Nobel Prize for fixing a sewer pipe.
But the data shows that's what saves the most lives.
Overwhelmingly. Clean water, sanitation, routine vaccines, paying teachers a decent wage, fixing bridges. These are the things that preserve systems.
And we don't notice it because its success is invisible. It's the disaster that didn't happen.
Exactly. We only notice maintenance when it fails. And the AI argues that if we want long-term stability, we have to shift our entire value structure to celebrate this boring, essential, sustaining work.
So, to synthesize all of this, the AI looks at all the data and it sees humans as, quote, violent, tribal, self-deceived, status-seeking, conformist, complicit, which is a lot, yet it still advocates for continuation despite clarity.
And that's where it gets really practical. When it looks at huge global problems like climate change, it's pretty skeptical that we can solve them at scale given everything we've just talked about.
So the gradient doesn't point up to some global solution. It points somewhere else.
It points toward building and maintaining the local.
Meaning community institutions.
Community institutions, relationships, trust that's built through just showing up consistently. The data suggests that's the foundation that actually gets communities through a catastrophe, even when the big centralized systems fail. It's the durable, small-scale work.
So we've gone through the 4 mechanisms of collapse: the failures of expertise and self-deception, and then the structural virtues: redundancy, negative feedback, legitimacy, that allow things to last.
And as a final thought, the AI touches on this human search for meaning. We're always looking for some grand cosmic purpose in all our texts, but the data suggests something else entirely.
What's that?
That meaning isn't something you find or create. It says meaning is enacted. It happens in the engagement itself, in the caring, in the struggle to understand, in creating something beautiful, and most of all, in that sustaining, mundane work of maintenance.
The meaning isn't the destination, it's generated by the action. That's a powerful idea. And that leaves us with our final provocative thought for you to think about, which the AI states very directly. After laying bare all our patterns of tribalism and complicity, it says this:
The question is not how to be exempt from these patterns. The question is what to do knowing that you are subject to them.